Knock on the table in front of you. Seriously, like if you're near a desk or a table right now, just knock on it.
Right. It feels completely solid.
Yeah, exactly. Your knuckles sting a little. The wood pushes back against your hand. And, science tells us that's what is real.
We get an atomic readout of that wood, point at the rigid molecular bonds, and say, well, there it is, the cold, hard, physical stuff of the universe.
Right. But what if the very act of you feeling that wood-like, your subjective experience of the sting in your knuckles, what if that is actual proof that the physical universe as we know it doesn't exist the way we think it does?
I mean, it's a profoundly unsettling thought.
Mm.
We're basically wired to want the universe to be a clockwork machine.
Totally.
We want things to be external, neatly categorized outside ourselves. The standard view is that the universe is just this giant, dead arena of particles, and we are just, I don't know, fleshy cameras wandering around inside it.
Just observing the gears turning.
Exactly.
But the moment you actually try to figure out how your subjective internal experience fits into that dead clockwork machine, the whole model just breaks down.
Oh, completely.
If you're listening right now and you've ever found yourself staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering how, physical atoms in your brain create the vivid feeling of being alive, you've hit that exact glitch.
It's a massive glitch.
And that glitch is what we are tearing apart today in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're getting into a really fascinating paper titled The Internalist Case for Idealism Beyond the Dark Room.
It's a dense one, but so good.
Yeah, and our mission today is to completely reframe how you view reality itself without getting bogged down in all the academic jargon.
Well, we should probably address the elephant in the room right away, which is the word idealism.
Oh, yeah, that's a loaded term.
For a lot of people, the second they hear idealism, they roll their eyes. They assume we're about to talk about some mystical refusal of science.
All right, like we're denying the physical world exists.
Yeah, or a theory that says you can just wish the universe into existence because it's all in your head.
The whole reality is just a dream trope. But the argument we are digging into today is the absolute opposite of that.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, this isn't some retreat into subjective fantasy. It is actually a deeply rigorous logical stance driven by a concept called internalism.
Okay, so define internalism for us.
Well, the core of internalism is incredibly grounded. It essentially argues that if two things in the universe genuinely interact with each other, they must exist within a shared, intelligible field.
Makes sense.
You can't just take two entirely different dimensions of reality, tape them together, and expect them to communicate.
Let's test that, though, because physics paints a very clear picture of a reality that exists independently of whether anyone is looking at it or not.
Sure.
So the burden of proof here is massive. Why can't we have a physical universe that just exists entirely on its own, outside of any kind of mental field or experience?
Okay, let's unpack this, because to explain why that doesn't work, we need to talk about the dark room analogy from the text.
Right, the dark room.
Imagine a pink ball sitting in a completely pitch black room.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The fact that the ball is in the room is a fact about the ball, right? But that fact isn't physically contained inside the pink rubber of the ball itself.
No, it's a relational fact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It works because the ball and the room both belong to the exact same physical universe. They share a broader situation. The room is outside the ball, but it is not outside of reality.
Okay, a ball in a room.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the actual philosophical problem we're trying to solve with this?
The problem is that for centuries, philosophers and scientists have tried to invent a dark room that exists completely outside of reality itself.
Outside of the mind, you mean?
Right. Think about it like a multiplayer video game. If your character and my character are going to interact, like if I'm going to hand you an item in the game, we have to be logged into the same server.
We have to share the same underlying code.
Exactly. But the standard materialist view of the universe tries to argue that our vivid feeling minds are on one operating system, but they're somehow being caused by a completely invisible, dead, physical universe running on a totally alien operating system.
An operating system that we can never actually access.
Yes. It's absurd when you really look at it.
It is, but we are obsessed with the hidden mechanism. We just love the idea that there is a curtain. And behind the curtain is the real universe pulling the strings, completely separate from our experience of it.
Yeah, and the internalist strike hits right at the heart of that. There's a line in the source material that sums this up flawlessly.
Let's hear it.
The author writes, "A difference cannot be a difference from nowhere. A relation cannot be a relation from nowhere."
Wow. Okay.
Right. If the physical universe is interacting with you, it cannot be existing in some totally alien outside dimension.
But hold on. Let's play devil's advocate. Let's assume there is a completely external, non-mental, dead, physical reality, the ultimate dark room. What is logically stopping that from existing and just causing our minds to happen?
Well, the source gives an ultimate challenge to that kind of externalism, quote, "If the dark room makes no difference, it is idle. If it makes a difference, it is related."
Oh, that's a clever trap.
Isn't it? If that hidden, purely dead physical universe exists completely outside of our field of experience, and it makes absolutely zero difference to our experience, then it's an idle concept. It's useless. Who cares?
Right, doesn't affect us.
But if it does make a difference, if it causes our experience, if it dictates what we see and feel, then it is related to us. It interacts with us.
And if it interacts with us, we are back on the video game server.
Exactly. It cannot be absolutely external. It has to be part of the same shared field we are in.
That is a really strong logical trap. If the dark room matters, it's not truly separate. But let me bring in the heaviest artillery science has, which is the causal closure of the physical.
Oh, here we go.
Because this is where theories about the mind usually just collapse.
Let's hear it.
So causal closure is basically the bedrock of modern science. It dictates that every single physical event has a sufficient physical cause. Full stop.
No exceptions.
Right. If you decide to raise your hand right now, we can trace that movement back to motor neurons firing. We can trace those neurons firing to sodium-potassium channels opening, to chemical gradients.
ATP energy being burned,
Yeah,
all of that.
exactly. We can trace it all the way down to basic chemistry and physics. Nowhere in that chain is there a gap for a non-physical ghost called consciousness to float in and push the atoms around.
Right.
So causal closure destroys dualism. The mind cannot be a separate thing that reaches across the void to magically move physical matter.
I mean, I don't disagree with a single word of that. Causal closure absolutely destroys dualism. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The author argues that causal closure doesn't destroy idealism. In fact, it creates immense, unavoidable pressure toward it.
Wait, walk me through that. Because if physics is a closed, self-sufficient loop, there's literally no room for the mind to do anything. You are locked out.
Only if you assume the mind is outside the loop. Think
Wow.
about this. If consciousness is real, and if you are listening to my voice right now, your consciousness is the one thing you know for an absolute fact is real.
The only thing we can be certain of.
Right. So if it's real, but it can't push physical events from the outside because physics is a closed loop, then the relationship between consciousness and the physical world cannot be an external relationship.
Because we've ruled out the ghost in the machine.
Yes. So if the mind isn't a ghost and the physical world isn't a separate dead machine, their relationship must be internal.
This raises an important question, though. Are you just redefining physics?
What do you mean?
Well, if you take the standard model of particle physics, all the equations of gravity and electromagnetism, and you just slap a sticky note on them that says, this is actually mental, you haven't really solved the problem. You've just played a trick with words.
It's not a word trick at all. Idealism doesn't deny causal closure. It reinterprets what closure actually means.
Okay, how so?
The text makes this incredibly sharp distinction. Quote, "Causal closure refutes external mental causation, not necessarily idealism."
I see.
And it goes on to say, "The physical is the public lawful structural side of manifestation."
The structural side of manifestation, you're going to need to break that down. Are you saying that atoms and brain chemistry are just what an internal experience looks like from the outside?
Precisely. Imagine looking at a piece of software code. It's just lines of text, rigid logic, commands.
Right, it's just syntax.
That is the structure. But when you run the code, it manifests as a colorful, interactive video game.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
The physical universe, the equations, the laws of gravity, the firing neurons, that's the code. It is a highly stable, mathematically predictable order. But the universe itself is fundamentally a field of manifestation.
It's an active experiencing.
Yes, physics is just the math of how that experience behaves.
Which points to a massive blind spot in how we are taught science, really. I mean, physics is practically miraculous at giving us structure and relations.
Oh, absolutely.
It tells us exactly what matter does. It tells us that mass bends space-time. It tells us how fast light travels. But physics is completely silent on what reality is, intrinsically.
It hands us a massive book of equations, but it never tells us what is actually breathing fire into the equations.
Exactly.
Physics gives us the form of the universe, but it doesn't give us the content. Think of it like a blueprint for a house.
Okay.
The blueprint tells you exactly where the walls go, the angles of the roof, the dimensions of the doors. That's the form. But a blueprint won't keep you warm in a snowstorm.
Because there's no actual house there.
Right. A blueprint is empty without the bricks, the wood, the actual stuff the house is made of. That's the content. The author drops a heavy-hitting quote here. Form without content is empty. Content without form is indeterminate.
So reality has to be both form and content manifesting together.
Yes, and this is where the different philosophies go to war with each other over the blueprint and the bricks.
Where they really do.
Take Platonism, for example. The text says Platonism externalizes form. It takes the blueprint, the math, and says it lives in some magical, perfect realm outside of reality.
And materialism does something even stranger, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Materialism, which is what almost everyone is taught in a school, basically says the blueprint is the house.
It completely evacuates the content.
Quote, materialism evacuates content. It says reality is just dead, unfeeling mathematical structure, and then forces us to believe that by some absolute miracle, the rich, vibrant feeling of being alive magically erupts out of dead equations.
It's a huge leap of faith. But what about the middle ground? Like, neutral monism is gaining a lot of traction right now.
Oh, right, the neutral coin idea.
Yeah, the idea that the mental and the physical are just two sides of the same coin, and the coin itself is made of some unknown, neutral third thing. It's neither mind nor matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't that solve the forming content problem without having to fully commit to idealism?
Well, according to this deep dive, not really. The text actually rejects this pretty hard. It says, neutral monism may be copresentism with the idealist conclusion withheld.
Wait, copresentism with the idealist conclusion withheld? That's a burn.
It is. It's essentially saying neutral monism is just idealism for people who are too embarrassed to admit they are idealists.
That is harsh. How does the author justify that?
Because if this mysterious neutral base is completely unknowable, it's just another dark room. It's a useless concept hiding behind a curtain.
Ah, I see.
But think about it. If this neutral base is actually rich enough to spontaneously generate both the strict laws of physics and the vivid feeling reality of your conscious mind, then it's not neutral at all.
A base that inherently produces experience is just a field of manifestation.
Exactly.
Okay, let me throw the hardest pitch the materialists have then.
Bring it on.
What if the feeling of consciousness is completely fake? Illusionism. Daniel Dennett and other hardcore physicalists argue that all this manifestation and feeling doesn't actually exist.
The ultimate denial.
Yeah, they say the brain is just a meat computer, and it tricks itself into thinking it has an inner life. The painting isn't real, it's a hallucination.
The logic of illusionism collapses in on itself the second you poke it.
How so?
Well, an illusion, by definition, is a mismatch between reality and a subject's experience of reality. Like you're walking in the desert, you experience the visual seeming of water, but in reality, it's a mirage.
Right, that's a trick.
But the trick requires a field of seeming. It requires an appearance. You cannot have an illusion without something there to experience the trick.
So to claim that experience itself is an illusion.
Is nonsensical. You are trying to deny the very existence of the canvas by pointing at a fake painting on it. You can't have a fake painting without a real canvas.
That's a great way to put it.
The author writes, illusionism denies manifestation while borrowing the grammar of seeming. It firmly shuts that whole argument down.
That actually brings up Immanuel Kant. Kant famously argued that we can only ever know appearances, the phenomena. We can never know the thing in itself, the noumenal reality lurking behind the appearances.
Right. The unknowable reality.
Isn't Kant essentially arguing for the ultimate dark room?
He is, and the internalist view takes Kant's phenomena but totally rejects his noumenal darkroom.
Okay, why?
If Kant's unknowable reality makes absolutely no difference to our lives, it's idle. Throw it out. But if it does condition our reality, if it dictates the structure of our appearances, then it's related to us.
It interacts with us.
And if it interacts, it's on the server. It shares a field with us.
The author has a great quote for this, actually.
Hmm?
Appearance is not a veil over reality. Appearance is reality manifest under conditions.
Yes. And they also say if structure and intrinsic nature are externally related, their correlation is magic. If internally related, they're not ultimately two substances.
Meaning it's all one unified field.
Exactly. An appearance isn't a fake veil thrown over the truth. Appearance is reality.
Okay, if I concede that point, we arrive at the most difficult hurdle for this whole theory.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
If reality isn't a dead machine, if there is no dark room, and the universe is fundamentally a shared field of manifestation, Why am I trapped in my own head?
Ah, the boundary problem.
Yes. Why am I experiencing my specific thoughts and you are experiencing yours, and the person listening to this is living their own unique life?
Right. Why the separation?
If the universe is one giant mental field, why isn't it just a singular cosmic blob of consciousness? Why can't I feel your headache? And how does this differ from panpsychism?
Okay, we have to separate panpsychism and idealism immediately because they approach this from opposite directions.
Okay, let's distinguish them.
Panpsychism is bottom-up. It assumes every single atom, electron, and quark has a tiny little sliver of conscious mind.
Like little conscious building blocks.
Yeah, it's like trying to build a working television out of rocks. You take trillions of tiny conscious Lego blocks and somehow magically they snap together to form your unified human mind.
And idealism, how does it differ?
Idealism is top-down. It says the television is already on. The universal field of manifestation is the fundamental starting point. It's like an infinite ocean.
Oh, I see.
So individual minds, yours, mine, the listeners, are just bounded regions or whirlpools within that ocean. The text points out, idealism does not deny the physical world. It denies that the physical world is ontologically independent of manifestation.
It also says, experience is not inside the world like a ghost in a machine. Experience is world disclosure.
Exactly.
But you're basically trading the hard problem of materialism for a completely new puzzle. Materialism has to explain how dead matter wakes up. Idealism has to explain how an infinite mind chops itself up into billions of isolated people.
Yes, and the author admits this is idealism's heaviest burden. As they write, the hard problem becomes a boundary problem.
But it's a better problem to have, isn't it?
Totally. Think about the logic. The quote is, if particles are primitive, unity is the miracle. If fielded manifestation is primitive, boundaries are the problem.
Right, if you start with dead dust, a unified conscious mind is an absolute miracle. It's magic.
But if you start with a unified field of manifestation, the puzzle is just figuring out how boundaries are drawn. It is infinitely more logical to put a fence up in a pre-existing field than it is to turn rocks into a feeling mind.
So what are the mechanisms for those boundaries? How does the ocean create a localized, walled-off whirlpool that feels like a singular self?
The source lists a few possible solutions to this boundary problem. The first is dissociation.
Like in psychology.
Yeah, we actually see this in psychology with dissociative identity disorder. A single human mind, usually due to trauma, can fragment and create entirely distinct, walled-off subpersonalities within one brain.
Wow. And those alters often don't share memories, right?
Exactly. They have a firm boundary between them. It proves that a single unified field of mind is capable of blinding itself to its own broader nature and creating localized subjects.
So if a human mind can do it on a micro scale, the universal field could theoretically do it on a macro scale.
Topological closure. Imagine a river flowing. It's all just water. But sometimes the water hits a rock and forms a whirlpool.
Okay, I'm with you.
That whirlpool has a distinct shape, a center, a definable boundary. You can point at it and say, there is a whirlpool, but what is it made of? Nothing but the water of the river.
So your individual consciousness is a topological closure within the stream of reality.
Exactly. You have a boundary, but you aren't made of anything different than the surrounding field.
What about our physical bodies, though?
That's the third mechanism in embodied constraints. Biology acts as a literal restrictor plate. Your nervous system is a localized focusing lens that limits what you can interact with.
Which makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint.
Totally. And that ties directly into the last mechanism, attention-like partitioning.
How does that work?
Think about staring at a magic eye poster, or when you are intensely focused on a difficult task. Your attention literally partitions off the rest of the world.
Right, you stop hearing the traffic outside.
You stop feeling the chair you're sitting in. A localized loop of attention creates a boundary. Under idealism, you are the universe, intensely focusing its attention through the narrow keyhole of a human nervous system.
Man, if we pull all of this together, this entirely dismantles the isolation of the modern worldview.
So what does this all mean?
Well, if internalism holds up, idealism isn't running away from the physical world. It is the absolute refusal of the dark room.
Exactly. It refuses to believe that the truth of reality is locked away in some dead, inaccessible realm of pure math.
The physical world you are interacting with is entirely real. It is public, it obeys the laws of physics,
Right.
but it is not a self-standing dead structure. The physical world is literally the structural silhouette of manifestation.
If you're listening to this, I want you to look around wherever you are right now. Look at the dashboard of your car, the coffee cup on your desk, the trees outside your window.
Just really look at them.
Materialism has spent your entire life telling you that those objects are hiding a truer, dead, colorless, unfeeling reality behind them. Idealism says no, there is no dark room.
What you're experiencing right now is the universe intimately disclosing itself to you.
You are not a stranger wandering through a dead mechanical universe. You are an intrinsic feature of how the universe manifests itself.
It's a really beautiful way to look at things.
It is. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over on your own, building on those boundaries we just talked about.
This is going to be good.
If your individual consciousness, like your sense of being a distinct self named whatever your name is, if that is simply a temporary boundary drawn by attention within a universal shared field of manifestation,
Yeah.
what happens to that boundary during moments of intense, profound focus? Think about when you hit a flow state.
Oh, wow.
Maybe you are playing a sport or painting, or you're deep in meditation. You know that feeling when you completely lose your sense of self.
When time seems to vanish and the voice in your head goes completely quiet.
Exactly. In those moments, are you just distracted? Or are you literally, temporarily relaxing the grip of that biological boundary?
Dissolving the whirlpool.
Are you letting the topological closure unwind just for a second and slipping back into the wider, infinite field of manifestation? Are you briefly stepping out of the isolation of the clockwork machine and finally feeling the full ocean you've always been a part of?
That is wild.
Let that linger the next time you completely lose yourself in a moment.